Alright, now that I'm actually done with the job, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the procedure I did. That's probably the best way to do this so I can cover everything that happened and whatnot throughout it. So, what I went ahead and did was, or let's start out on how this happened. I got called by a friend a little bit ago. You can see a piece of bread sitting right there. I got called by a friend a little bit ago, and he got a spark plug socket stuck inside the spark plug tube. And he couldn't get it out. He tried grabbing it and everything. Tried getting this out of here any way possible. And I came here, tried to heat this up, and it didn't really do anything. So I went to the nearest gas station, found a loaf of bread, and just started shoving little tiny pieces of bread into the hole in the top of the socket. It was a 3/8 drive socket, of course, and just started shoving little pieces of bread into the 3/8 drive hole. And then I used a 3/8 extension and just started using that as a piston to push the bread further down in there, displacing the socket and making it wanting to rise up. Now, the problem came when this area right here, the socket got to around this height. The tube was a bit distorted, and the socket got stuck on its way up, and the actual spark plug tube started getting pressed out of the head. So what I did was I just went ahead and let it press itself out of the head, and I put the spark plug tube and the socket and everything still inside it inside of a vise, and I just hammered it out, heated this back up, and put it back in. But essentially all you're doing is just shoving bread into this 3/8 drive hole until it slowly pushes this socket out of here. Now, you can use grease. I really don't recommend that. Grease is messy, and most greases you're going to use are going to be conductive. And in an area like a spark plug tube and hole and everything, you want to try, I mean, there's porcelain and everything there to try to keep that power from touching that ground. If you put grease there, you're just creating a much easier path for that power to reach that ground, and you'll end up having misfire there. So I really don't recommend grease. Some people use wet paper for the thing I just did. I just went and bought some bread. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but I think bread was probably the best way. I'll go ahead and show you what was left. Cleanup. This was cleanup. Just pop this out of here, and now I'm done. Nothing more to that. So if you had grease in there, you'd be finding ways to try to get grease out of there all day, and that's just not very time efficient. So
now altogether this probably took about 2 to 3 pieces of bread to get this all the way out of the spark plug tube. If you have a smaller tube, it'd probably be a bit easier, but that's really all it took. It wasn't really that bad. It just took a long time to pack that much down there. It took me probably about 2 hours to get this all the way out. But I'm going to go ahead and get started showing you how I did it.
here we got a socket stuck in the spark plug hole. First, I'm going to go ahead and use my heat gun and heat up this tube so it expands a bit, because right now it's kind of snug around that socket. So I'm going to heat it up, expand it, and then I'm going to try to just lift it out of there. As you can see, I've made quite a bit of progress. All I do is just keep putting bread in this hole, and then it slowly gets pushed out. Very similar, maybe the same, I'm not sure technically, but the same as hydraulics. I'm just using an extension as the piston to shove bread into the socket, and as the bread just more keeps getting shoved into there, it just keeps slowly pushing this socket up. So that's how it's coming out of there right now, and it is slowly making progress. You can see that's where the socket is right there, and over here that's how far down the plug usually is. So it's made quite a bit of progress. We're almost done, kind of. I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it, but the socket is almost kind of out of there. So I just got to keep shoving bread into there. Now, millimeter by millimeter, it is coming up. It was at my knuckle there. Now it's slowly coming up. You can see getting pretty close here. But yeah, it's working out pretty good so far. So, second status update. Alright, here's the third update. You can see it is very close to the top, but it hit a spot that got distorted whenever it was trying to be removed before. So it is actually pressing the tube out of the head. I don't know how big of an issue that is. You can see the other one's right there. Here's the one that we're pushing on. So I'm not sure if the socket's going to come out of this end. Might have to take wrong tube. Might have to the tube might get pressed out, and then have to push the socket out to the other side. So, but typically it's going to work correctly as long as your tube isn't distorted heavily like this one. You can see from the top it's even like oval shaped, so it's probably a big contributor to it. At this point I'd probably even recommend a new tube, but I'm going to go ahead and try to continue pressing on this and see what ends up happening. Now that this is out of here, there's actually a pretty interesting view you don't usually get to see. This is the compacted bread. You can see there's the part that gets hit into the head. Here's the socket. And you can see just from the pressure being released off it, just not being against that head, the bread has actually come out of the hole a bit. It's slowly expanding out of there, but I'm going to go ahead and try to push it out of there, same way I was doing, just hitting it on top of the socket and knocking it all the way through, and then put the spark plug tube back in there, while also recommending a new one because it will more than likely need one. You can see the socket's out. I had to beat the hell out of it. The extension I was using is right here, but the socket is somewhere in that corner. It launched. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do it. Of course, this is not what's normally going to happen. As long as your tube isn't distorted, you haven't went crazy on it, it should just press the socket right out of there, no problem. You shouldn't have to deal with this coming out. But if you do, I'm going to show you also how to do that. What I'm going to do is heat up the head with a heat gun, get it kind of warm and expand it a bit, and cool this down as much as possible, and then put it back on there with a socket on top. Now, as you can see, I'm going to try to clean up this area as much as possible, but it's just a nice little hole there. What you do is I've went ahead and greased up the spot that slides into the head, just using some assembly grease, and I'm going to heat up this area with my heat gun, expand it a bit, and then try to drop the spark plug tube down into there, and I'll have to use a socket to beat it down there a little bit, more than likely, but we'll see. So now you can see it where it's heating up. I'm going to go get, or I'm going to let this sit for just a little bit longer. Let it get a little bit hotter. The aluminum expands fairly quickly, but I just want to make sure that it's expanded enough that whenever you get the spark plug tube, it should be a fairly easy ordeal. Right now I have the tube out here. It's right here just standing up in the wind. It's probably about, I don't know, like 70 degrees, 60 degrees outside, so it's sitting here cooling a little bit. You can see I got the grease around the outside of it. So I'm going to use this socket, hit the top side of it, and to set it down in this hole fairly easily. Like I said, I'm letting this warm up just a bit more, and then it should be ready to go. So heating that up definitely made it easier. You can see it sitting there just like the others. And there's no socket in there. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helped you out. If not, leave some comments. I'll try to help you out as much as I can. Try to put videos out fairly often. Just kind of depends on how busy I am. But most of all, let me know what you guys think of this video.